welcome to our friends visiting us through Culture Days.
And we're also excited to share with you some beautiful aspects of the Indigenous culture here in Turtle Island. Hi, my name is Karina, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm an international student at York University. I'm currently studying childhood, and youth studies.
Joni Dishnakan Shiketo Dem, Wikwamakong Donjba, Toronto Ndonji. I'm currently studying culture and expression through the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Professional Studies here at York University. Before we begin our project, I want to be able to start off in a good way by acknowledging and talking about our 4 sacred medicines. When we smudge, we are cleaning our mind, body, and spirit. We are creating a balance with our mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self. Medicines are sacred. They are very important to our everyday life and ceremonies. Sweetgrass teaches us kindness, as it is Mother Earth's hair that sways in the breeze through the fields. You could smell that sweet aroma and admire its beauty through its shine. A single strand is easily breakable. However, 3 strands in a braid represent strength and unity, and our mind, body, and spirit is being aligned together in balance. Sage is commonly used for smudging. There are various types of sage to use. It'll support our minds by relieving troubles and unwanted energies from our hearts, our minds, and our personal spaces. Cedar is a protection medicine. We hang it in our homes or walk with a piece of it in our shoe to protect our spirit and health from any negative energies. It is a healing medicine which can be used in teas or baths to help alleviate stress or just to give yourself a good cry. Tobacco is like our natural Wi-Fi connection between our spirit, Mother Earth, and the Creator. Tobacco is a powerful medicine that we use as an offering to acknowledge, give thanks, ask for guidance or support throughout our everyday life and through ceremony. Personally, I like to make a blend of all 4 medicines which I use for smudging and personal protection. Indigenous Culture Through a Colorful Lens is a 4 short video series for our viewers to reimagine Indigenous culture by educating through song and traditional art. Our project will educate, promote, and showcase culture by experiencing and respecting its diversity, beauty, and vibrancy through the heartbeat of Mother Earth and beautiful craftsmanship. We want people to gain an understanding that although we come from many different nations, as a people, there's one mutual understanding throughout Turtle Island. It's that we hold a strong connection to the land and the water, no matter the nation or community that we come from. Today, as more people are learning the truths of our history and have a desire to learn effective ways to move forward, we'll provide a basic understanding of nations represented through the medicine wheel, along with essential knowledge of Indigenous people in Canada. We hope that these will support your learning journey. When getting to know the land that you're standing on for a place of living or work, we hope that you are mindful to not only acknowledge the histories, the nations, and the treaties, however, that you take into consideration the respect and the differences between nations, between culture groups, and our languages. In our videos, we'll explore teachings of the drum, learn a song, and see how Indigenous culture is explored by harvesting of natural material used for traditional art. We'll also take a visit with an Anishinaabe artist who will show us her technique of traditional porcupine quill art. Lastly, we want to reflect on creative, inclusive, and engaging strategies to educate non-Indigenous people about the true beauty of Indigenous culture. This will be a way of growth and positive change to embracing the start of your journey towards truth and reconciliation.
Prior to moving forward with our project, we felt that it is important to respectively take this moment to reflect and honor the experiences of those who attended Indian residential schools, to those who survived and made it home, to those who did not, to all who were affected by the intergenerational traumas stemming from the Indian residential schools, Indian day schools, the 60s scope, and to those who are currently going through the millennial scope and currently affected by today's child and family services.
We also want to acknowledge the strong and resilient advocates and supporters as land defenders and water protectors. We say miigwech to everyone for sharing your stories. It is through learning these shared stories and life experiences that have inspired many to learn about Indigenous culture. We could not move forward to show the beauty and vibrancy of the Indigenous cultures without these important and respectful acknowledgements to those who have died, suffered, survived, and those who are still here today fighting for everything that we live for. Miigwech. Thank you.
Now let's step ahead and discuss One People, Many Nations.
Being part of this course, Narratives of a Cultural Production, allows the opportunity for me to continue doing what I have always had a passion doing. Finding fun, creative, and engaging ways to give people an opportunity to look at Indigenous culture from a different perspective, the arts. I want people to understand that they can't have this pan-Indigenous concept when you want to learn about Indigenous cultures, because we all come from different nations. Furthermore, that the ways of living vary between community to community and urban centers. Knowing these differences goes beyond just acknowledging the treaties, the history, and the traditional lands that you stand on. Ever since I was a young girl, going back to grade 3, I went through my first racism experience. And I believe that this experience is what motivated me to educate my peers about Indigenous culture. I've always been proud to say I am an Anishinaabe Kwe. I've always been proud to say I am from Wikwemkong. I've always been proud to say that I am from Manitoulin Island. So I'm also excited to have the project partner join me from Nigeria. We have made this series possible through technology, and she has helped me form this project with the non-Indigenous perspective of knowing what kind of essential knowledge people can learn. And we're excited to share this project with you.
I chose to be part of this project because it is an opportunity for me, alongside my partner Joni, to bring to you all the beauty of the Indigenous culture. There's so many people out there that only have the negative ideas about the culture, and it is such a beautiful culture. So I think this is an opportunity for me to share with you the little knowledge that I have gained alongside Joni, who can be classified as an expert in this area, to answer your questions and just to educate you, to give you an opportunity to learn and to be immersed into the culture, and at the same time promote the Indigenous community.
When we look at the medicine wheel, the colors represented throughout the 4 quadrants is a worldview perspective of nations. Every quadrant represents groups of people and its nations. Our project focuses at the southern quadrant, which represents Indigenous nations. Like the 3 quadrants, everyone has their own systems and ways of life, so there's no difference when we look at the Indigenous people of Canada. We got to be mindful and remember we are all one people, mankind, humans. However, we all have our own languages, traditional lands, food, beliefs, dance, ceremonies, and political structures. When you hear the word Indigenous, keep in mind there are many nations across North America. Thanks to the website whos.land, which offers a map where people can discover the nations and treaties within the area of your place of living or work. In Canada alone, there are 634 First Nations, also known as reserves, comprising of 50 distinct nations and language group. This map is from the Assembly of First Nation, which is a political structure for Indigenous people. The difference between AFN and the Canadian government structure is that our chief has committees of elders, women, and youth, whom we believe help guide the chiefs. Let's look specifically at Ontario. There are several distinct nations, such as Anishinaabe Nation, which consists of the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa people. There are also Cree, Oji-Cree, Algonquins, and Delaware nations. Also, it is important to know the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, also known as Iroquois people. They too have 6 different nations. When reflecting on the land you are on, remember there are many different treaties written between the government and Indigenous people. For instance, look around Toronto. There are 6 different treaties surrounding our city.
We're not going to focus on these specifics. We want you to visually see the diversity amongst Indigenous people. Remember, treaties and Aboriginal rights are recognized and affirmed in the Section 35 of the Canadian Constitutional Act of 1982. They are agreements made between nation to nation, between the First People and Canadian government, made to create peaceful relations so we may live in harmony amongst each other, on the land and amongst the waters. So as you reflect, get to know the land that you stand on, the history. Understand the differences between nations, people, language, song, dance, food, ceremonies, clothing, and yes, even the politics. We want you to understand that our nations are not interchangeable. Take the time to learn the differences and similarities. An example is the Anishinaabe Nation. It comprised of 39 different communities surrounding the Great Lakes. Anishinaabe people are known as people of the Three Fire Confederacy. There's a history and stories behind the building of this confederacy. We encourage you to learn more about it. Within this confederacy, it has Ojibwe Chippewa people known to be providers, gatherers, and hunters. Odawa people were known to be warriors in protecting its people. And the Potawatomi were also firekeepers. The different groups of people, such as Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Algonquin, Métis, and Inuit, all have their differences in these categories. Every nation and every community has different teachings of the drum, song, dance, medicine, and ways of life. What you learn amongst the people from the coast of James Bay will differ from Inuit or Iroquois communities because the lay of the land vary between communities. The land and the waters play a strong tie in the way people live and the structures of our languages. It is important to not just learn how to say a simple word in the language, but to learn the meaning behind it. In terms of political structures, there's the AFN, which, however, the old ways of governing the communities were through a clan system. This is the Anishinaabe clan system, where every clan represented an animal who had their own roles and responsibilities. Different nations has their own spiritual and natural governing principles, such as the seven grandfathers who teach us love, truth, respect, bravery, wisdom, honesty, and humility. Overall, these logos represent the various groups of people within Ontario and Canada. We hope that people understand that even amongst Indigenous people, there is diversity amongst our languages, ways of life, ceremonies, teachings, stories, clans, and natural laws. We also hope that this video gives you a slight new perspective on how to start your learning journey of Indigenous people. Lastly, as much as I emphasize learning about the differences, I want to assure you that across Turtle Island, the connection that your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual self has with our first family is the natural beauty with the land, water, and sky world, which is the life I have known to call Minno Bamatsawin.
A big aspect to the project planning was finding a way on how we could give non-Indigenous people a sense of comfort in their starting journey of learning and exploring a new culture. So as project partners, Karina reviewed all of the videos and came up with some very interesting questions. So as a project lead, I encouraged Karina to be blunt, bold, and upfront, and not to be afraid to ask any questions that some people deem to be offensive. So the greatest lesson that we take away from these questions is, how are you ever going to know if you don't ask? So here are some questions from Karina.
How does a person with allergies to any of the four medicines smudge?
People with allergies have a choice to decide what medicine they want to use. Now, if it's your first time being part of a smudging ceremony, you're more than welcome to either just simply say no and nod your head, or you're more than welcome just to step back from the circle. Nobody's going to question why you're refusing the medicine. Naturally, we just respect people's decision. But also, people are making tinctures out of the sage, sweetgrass, or cedar. So all depending on what you're, if it's the smell that you're allergic to, you have a choice between different medicines that you want to use. Or if you don't like the smoke, tinctures usually, or a infused oil with all the medicines, is usually the alternative way that you would go, because you would apply the infused oil here, or even on your temples.
Is it possible to overuse the medicines?
only time I've ever overused on a medicine was the sage, when we put way too much sage in a smudge bowl in a small confined room, and it set off the fire alarms. And in a work environment, you can't turn around and cancel a fire department for coming to check out the building. So be mindful of the spaces that you're using. A little bit of medicine goes a long ways. And if you're exploring the medicines to consume, I would consult with somebody who is knowledgeable of the medicines, because there are some safety parameters, and whether if you're pregnant or not, there are some restrictions for when you consume medicine.
Can just anyone smudge?
Absolutely, anybody could smudge. Smudging is a very natural thing. The medicines come naturally from the earth. The medicines are for everyone to use. We just ask that when you're coming into a smudging ceremony, that you become respectful, and you honor that time that person is doing smudging, when they're smudging themselves, that you give them their moment of silence, because that is their time of connection with the spirit world, with the creator. So that's their time of prayer and reflection when they are doing that smudge. So we just ask that you come with an open mind and an open heart.
As part of your learning journey into reconciliation and learning about Indigenous people, I encourage you to explore and reflect these terms and its definitions to help you understand the differences that the government has placed upon us.
We want to say chimigwech to everyone who has stopped by to visit us through Culture Days. As you can see, our project has been exciting and definitely a learning experience as we navigate through the world of technology. We hope that your experience is just as exciting and you are walking away today with some new knowledge of Indigenous people. We hope that you enjoyed our first video. We look forward to seeing you in our next video, where we explore the teachings of the drum and get to meet one of our community members who shares her song with us. Miigwech, Bamapi.